the engines of the urban sector really need to be chugging hard if we have to lift the rest of the the whole citizens of India into the era of prosperity from the era of despair. And there are good initiatives in terms of infrastructure, which is like the road connectivity. I think connectivity itself, right through, whether it's telecom, whether it's roads, electrification, all these are, I think, the laying of the optic fiber, all these are macro infra initiatives which have actually managed to bring about connectivity. And I think connectivity is what triggers the ability of the rest of India to share in the opportunities which the urban sector brings forth. 100 cities that were identified in Smart Cities Mission, I think somewhere in those 25, 30, 40 cities, lives have definitely become better than they used to. General prosperity obviously is around. So for our IT, software, etc., as long as the real estate prices are, sort of conducive to their business, they are obviously spreading a good amount of prosperity around as well. Everything in India is 90% complete. That's the problem. Your dedicated freight corridor 90% complete. Samruddhi Expressway for last 8 months was 90% complete. Somehow the 10% actually, takes the whole, takes us through a long enduring path.
What happens with that 10%? I think it's a very interesting argument. The last 10%, we're like chokers, 99, and then we can't complete 100.
Because the National Highway Authority has said that you don't start tendering out road projects until you got land 90% complete. So basically, that 10% you've not acquired. So you're headed for a disaster because this 10% whoever owns, he knows that he'll get his pound of flesh.
Thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Padode. It's a real pleasure. This is the Infravision Foundation's Infravision Conversations, and we use this platform to talk to experts in the field across the infrastructure space. And I thought after I read your book, I'm a little late in the day to catch up with it, but after I read your book, I thought this is someone who really understands the infrastructure space and has been following it very keenly for the last 25 years. So who better than you to talk about where we are currently in certain, we can't obviously, talk about everything infrastructure. That will be a very long conversation. But I thought we'd focus on urbanization. And I think that's something that you as founder president of the First Construction Council, and as I said, as the author of Tarmac to Towers, the India infrastructure story, you've been watching very keenly. So I wanted to start by talking to you about the state of urbanization in India currently. And, there's this talk in Niti Aayog that we need to redefine what urban itself means. So there's a lot of churn happening. We've seen Smart Cities Mission, aspirational districts, we've seen growth hubs. Where really are we at currently?
So thank you, Kaveree. Thank you for reaching out to me for this discussion. I think obviously India's urban cities or urban sector is actually driving the rest of the country. So it's a no-brainer that the engines of the urban sector really need to be chugging hard if we have to lift the rest of the the whole citizens of India into the era of prosperity from the era of despair. And there are good initiatives in terms of infrastructure, which is like the road connectivity. I think connectivity itself, right through, whether it's telecom, whether it's roads, electrification, all these are, I think, the laying of the optic fiber, all these are macro infra initiatives which have actually managed to bring about connectivity. And I think connectivity is what triggers the ability of the rest of India to share in the opportunities which the urban sector brings forth. Having experienced the Smart Cities mission for probably around 9 years or so, while even I headed the Smart Cities Council India, I found that essentially there are certain legal or let's say structural tweaks. First of all, for example, just very basically, a municipal commissioner's tenure is on an average not more than 9 months. Now imagine the head of a city or a municipality, if he's going to come and go in 9 months, what files is he going to move, what projects is he going to understand, what he really implement, and what imprint does he even intend or is he inspired to leave. So whole concept of somebody wanting to do something inspirational for that city or constructive really for that city. So there we lose out the whole battle right away. And so what happened was, as a result, that was one part of it. The other part of it is obviously because there is been no continuous accountability. So nobody's going to hold me accountable if I come and go and leave the whole city in shambles, financial shambles and whatever, what have you. So if I'm going to invest the budget of the city 70% in salaries and administrative, I have barely any funds left for doing any project. First of all, I'm not interested in doing a project because I'm going to get transferred, and then I'm going to barely just move the files a bit and ask for the funds, and by the time funds come, I've already moved. So projects continuously get delayed, and obviously whose money is getting spent? It's the taxpayers' money. Somehow these citizens haven't awakened to this reality, and they also feel that it is not their responsibility and it is somebody else's responsibility. Not in my backyard principle is working for each household, and we are the ultimate sufferers. We pay for it, but we suffer. I think this whole urban thing will not change until unless the citizens get involved, and citizens need to get involved at the local level in governance, but after having tweaked this structural problem which I just stated now.
Right. So why are we reinventing the wheel in a way? Why are we redefining urban? Don't we know what urban is?
Well, I think, I don't know, I'm not familiar with the details of this problem, but one thing is true, that the way the rest of India is now sort of growing, it's a different kind of a phenomenon, because like I said in the beginning, the connectivity is allowing the prosperity to trickle down to the rural areas, and they're sort of becoming rural stroke urban. If there is any urban, yeah. So if you go to see like let's say in the US, etc., they have a standard template for each town. So you'll have a mall, you'll have these fast food joints and various that's starting to happen across here, because and I'll tell you what, I've been touring around, and a lot of people who are in the smaller cities are enjoying life much more than the ones in the bigger cities. The bigger cities are choked with traffic, choked with pressures. They desperately need respite from all this, so they get away from their cities whenever they can. But the others, where the new, like whether the Smart Cities mission created some project for them, or whether the local municipality finally managed to reach a point where the project got implemented, or some other real good municipal commissioner with good intentions managed to crack the whip and get it done in 10 months or whatever. The lives of those people has really improved a lot. I would say not absolutely rural, but the rural urban, so the cities which are probably growing, which are maybe 10 lakh plus, a million plus kind of, or maybe 500,000 to million, there the lives have really improved. I think 25 or 27 cities are working towards metros. So I think the 100 cities that were identified in Smart Cities mission, I think somewhere in those 25, 30, 40 cities, lives have definitely become better than they used to. General prosperity obviously is around. So for our IT, software, etc., as long as the real estate prices are, sort of conducive to their business, they are obviously spreading a good amount of prosperity around as well. Yeah, so I think that redefinition is only coming because the growth in this urban sector is actually happening.
Be able to identify some of these cities which have struck you as being growth hubs, or having improved their standard of living considerably?
Kota, for example. Kota was known for the IIT toppers and
exactly the coaching centers.
Yes, but they got the economy bustling because of the rental incomes that people started to draw from these students who would come across from multiple parts of this country and stay there. And then now they've built some gardens and the riverfront and things like that, the waterfront. And they are there. I think that's a good example. Of course, Bhopal and Indore. Indore is a much bigger city. These two have been securing the most cleanest city titles for some time now. So that means there is awareness. See, the municipal commissioner or corporation cannot just do this by themselves. It has to be, even I've met citizens from these two cities and they're actually proud about the fact that their cities are cleanest. And obviously they draw some possibly esteem or business on account of this kind of positioning of the cities.
Right. What about some cities in the south? Because we often neglect to talk about some of the amazing growth that has happened there. Kochi, for instance, I mean, it's a city that seems to be growing in every right way.
Right. Yeah. So I think south is growing much faster than the north in any case. The reason I didn't mention right away from south is that it's a given that they are far more, if you were to divide the development of India in the south and north, south takes the cake for sure. So in terms of project development, in terms of project execution, timely project execution, I think in all aspects they are far ahead. And I'm sure per capita income of the states is much higher as well. So there, I was witness to, as part of the Smart Cities Council, witness to the master planning of Visakhapatnam, which was also sort of financed by the US Trade Development Agency. And at that point in time, I think a whole lot of, brainstorming went into how the waterfront can be brought about and how we can ensure that. So I think the biggest problem is that town planners don't have their due in our country. Actually, there is a whole tribe of town planners who need to be encouraged and brought into the fore for planning cities. And it's not too late, because planning is something like you plan for 25-30 years ahead. And given the state at which now data centers are coming in, and if you have an ill-planned city, you might find that the data centers are occupying the center of the city and consuming all of the power of the city. And then there's going to be another problem. So I think not to do that, and they'll be consuming a lot of water, a lot of power, and the city will starve. So you got to, I think planning needs to be very brought in. Absolutely, it's like high time.
Right. Just to shift focus a little, if I were to ask you about the 5 biggest accomplishments in infrastructure that you've seen in the last 25 years, which you've observed and you've noted, what would you say they were? Obviously, the golden quadrilateral, I think, was the first of its kind, right?
So actually, the golden quadrilateral actually set about the whole road network public-private partnership principle. In fact, I remember I went to the US at that time, and I mentioned in my book as well. And we had taken the Secretary MORTH, Ministry of Roads, and we actually put it out there that this is a public-private partnership model. And there were bankers and financial investors and pension fund guys, and they all said, we don't want to take construction risk. If you give us a special purpose vehicle, which is after the construction is already done, we would be happy to come in. That was in 2011-12. So obviously 10 years later, they're all here now. And so I think the road network really brought in the public-private partnership. That was one big thing, which is now going pretty well across the country. I think the other achievements I've reached recent was the digital network, the stack, where the payment systems that we have been able to achieve, the Aadhaar and the Jan Dhan, and so the whole trinity of digital stack that we call. I think that's a great achievement that we managed to do. Electrification of villages has happened. That is another. Then our again, in terms of digital, the reach through this optic fiber network that we have managed to do, that is again a great achievement. And I think I think now we can even say that engineering marvels are happening. So we've got the ports, that Vizhinjam port in Kerala, and the terminal that's coming up near Mumbai now. That is another. So if you look at it, our airports are shiny, brand new, and compared to the, if you fly to Europe and the US, you feel like, where have you come? Like who's emerging and who's emerged? I'm sure that our airports are like really outshine those. It's our problem is the last mile connectivity. I think that's where we are actually. We feel that a job is already done once we make the airport or a station, and we don't mind that, because the planning part of how do you. Because we've got lots of people, and obviously where are they going to park, where are they going to take the next mode of transport.
Think about all of that. We've seen that with our metros as well, right? I mean, so many metros coming up in cities, and we don't plan for how are the people going to get from the metro to their homes. Yeah.
In fact, that's the problem that Mumbai Line 3 also faces currently, because there's no last mile connectivity planned out.
Exactly. Right. And the local trains are bursting at the seams. They can't take any more. And I think every road in Mumbai currently is dug up.
Yeah, correct. So we are actually
living in the midst of an urban experiment.
Yeah, and we are going to remain like this for the next 10 years for sure.
Right. So I mean, your children will benefit, maybe their children will benefit from the connectivity. But the main part that citizens have to undergo, there has to be some education about that. There has to be some awareness that, these are things that take time. If a Worli metro station is flooded, there's an outcry. But perhaps it was because, they tried to speed it up, or all protocols were not followed, because there's so much pressure as well on getting things done quickly. So that understanding that, and you mentioned it repeatedly, that understanding that, you need patience and you need perseverance also as citizens as well as executors of projects, right? That civic awareness is something we've still not been able to instill, despite so many think tanks and so much talk about infrastructure.
We need to bring in the citizens into the local management issue, because then there will be not. Because the person who will now talk to the citizens will have to think it through, that I'm opening up this road or I'm starting this bridge. Okay, then what's going to happen? How is the person going to go? Because the citizen will voice his concern. See, in the smart city mission, it was supposed to be a part of it that your development plan has to be put on the website, and the citizens ought to vote for it so that they understand what it is. It was
I don't think that happened.
It happened, but then it happened, everybody tried to push numbers, and there are followers, and they said okay, but nobody really paid attention that whether it actually happened as per plan, and whether they actually called in representatives of the citizen groups and dialogue with them. That's what's important. Again, it becomes politics. Yeah, I think.
Right. That's the problem. I mean, everything in India is politics, but urban infrastructure for sure. So, if I were to ask you, Mumbai specific, for instance, you talked about how you see 10 years, we will see the fruits of what's happening 10 years later. Give me a picture, give me a sense of what Mumbai is going to look like in 2035.
2025 is now, but like 35 I mean.
2035.
I believe in the next 5 years, 5 to 6 years, Mumbai is going to be a great.
2030, let's say. Yeah.
Great place. I mean, like there are 10 plus metro lines working. All metro stations are from anywhere to anywhere. I think the whole real estate landscape changes. You've got an airport, new airport. People from Pune are going to be driving down to the Navi Mumbai International Airport. They're going to move up the Atal Setu Bridge and come across the city. City is going to have much more capacity of the roads to take on vehicles, because a lot of people are going to actually now move through the metro lines, which are going to be, once the importance in metro lines only comes about when the entire network is complete. Like Delhi has got, the network is complete, so it makes sense. Until then, it's a pain. Until then, it doesn't make really sense. Like Bangalore or Chennai, there are bits of pieces. So in the next 5-7 years, obviously, all the lines are going to be working very well. We also have a subway, the local trains, which also in parallel will complement the whole network. So I think, and Mumbai is one city which is already used to traveling by local trains, So
it doesn't need to be initiated into it.
Yes. So from that point of view, there's definitely going to be a reflection of a lessening of that traffic when people will move into these. Real estate itself is going to be, sort of facing a complete change because of the fact that now there are different, access points for people to move about or reach their workplaces or whatever. The airport is there. Then with the coastal road along the coastal, now it's so easy for somebody staying in probably Nariman Point to reach the airport in 45 minutes very easily.
Yeah. It's easier now to go to South Mumbai than to go to Bandra.
Yeah, so that also will change because the Worli Ceiling Bridge is now extending to Warsaw to Virar, and then Virar to Alibag. There's a big corridor coming up. So the kind of road connectivity is just explosive. So I think in the next 5-7 years, Mumbai is going to be, it will actually race to becoming one of the top cities of the world. It's actually, the infrastructure wise is set to do that. And the connectivity from Mumbai to Nagpur, for example, they just opened the Samruddhi Expressway, the 700 kilometer Mumbai Nagpur now in 7 hours. And then you've got extensions of the Mumbai-Pune Expressway also happening, which are making the whole journey much more, faster by making interventions. So, and then we have a Mumbai-Goa planned out as well. So, and then we have Delhi.
You need to complete the Mumbai-Delhi. You need to complete Mumbai-Delhi. Because it's sort of left halfway,
Yeah, correct. Everything in India is 90% complete. That's the problem. Your dedicated freight corridor 90% complete. Samruddhi Expressway for last 8 months was 90% complete. Somehow the 10% actually, takes the whole, takes us through a long enduring path.
Yeah, what happens with that 10%? I think it's a very interesting argument. The last 10%, we are like chokers, 99, and then we can't complete our 100.
Because the National Highway Authority has said that you don't start tendering out road projects until you got land 90% complete. So basically, that 10% you've not acquired. So you're headed for a disaster because this 10% whoever owns, he knows that he'll get his pound of flesh. And anyway, he's getting 4 times the market price.
Right.
So it's the stage is set for somebody to actually rock the boat.
Right.
And
so would you recommend a change in that clause?
Absolutely. What stops them from making it 100%? Don't start the project until land is 100% purchased. You're asking for trouble by saying 90%. Yeah.
It looks like common sense, and you would hope that they have it, but it doesn't seem to work, right?
No, it doesn't. I don't understand the logic behind. First, they used to have, I think, less than that, also 80% or something, 75%, and raised it to 90%. Why not 100%? Don't start. Yeah. Even dedicated freight corridors are not fully complete. We have been working on them for last 15 years, more than that.
Right. And when we go to the Northeast, we face a completely different kind of problem. We don't even have proper air connectivity till now. Although we've had a whole new set of airports built in the Northeast as well, because it's still largely road-led, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
to many
It's
cities.
no, the airports are yet to come up, but they are planned right now. I think under Mr. Sindhia now they are maybe lots of airports under coming up in northeast part. Yeah, so
Right.
northeast the problem is the projects are being conducted very slow. None of the
Yeah.
contractors want to go there because obviously the terrain is tough. Then these
Right.
people don't want to pay as it is. The contractors work on very low margins. Then they want to still price them down. Then they want to look at local contractors. Local contractors don't have the ability, and it's such a challenging engineering job. So so even though money is allocated for Northeast, the rate of execution of projects there is very slow. That's the
Roads
problem.
as well as airports.
Yeah, everything is slow.
Right. Do you
Airport
have
may be easier. Airport may
Yeah.
still be easier, but roads is definitely slow.
is there a solution for you in mind for the Northeast? What can we do? Because so much depends on roads and connectivity in terms of the agri-produce, in terms of the things that they can connect with the rest of India. What can we do?
Kaveree, now infrastructure is such an issue. There will be elections fought on this basis because
I
you are
hope so.
you are excluding a section of the population from sharing the prosperity of the country because you haven't built a
Exactly.
road. So if
Right.
Northeast is backward, it's because you're not allowing them to move. They can't move their goods, their services, nothing. They don't get the opportunity. So by delay, you're actually delaying a whole generation of people from accessing opportunity. So I think what needs to be done is they ought to examine that all size fits all is not a situation. Northeast is a tough region. You have to do the cost estimation in a different manner. Getting materials out there is tough. Getting equipment out there is tough. You have to account for these and therefore give whatever tenders you're issuing. BRO does a fine job. Border Road Organization, they do a fine job.
How
But
could
then
they
it's
do
not
such a good job?
Yeah, sorry.
They do such a wonderful job. I mean, their roads are superb.
Yeah, they do a fine job, but not everything comes under them. Then the
Yeah.
matters that go under state and various other organizations, they get delayed because they are following the all size fits all policy, which cannot apply
Right.
to Northeast. Northeast needs,
Right.
and it's a critical area of critical importance to the country in defense. So we ought to look at it from that point of view and see that these the projects are accelerated at a different level. That definitely cannot be somebody who's sort of taking it as somebody else's responsibility. I think Mr. Sindhia is driving it well, but I think at the execution level, I don't know how well this the program is being monitored on a regular basis. They are trying to attract investments. That's good, but
Yeah.
until unless you give them proper infrastructure, how will investments actually move in with that speed?
Right. So, three things that we need to do to make sure our cities are growing and growing well. We don't have people choking, or we don't have even something like what happened in Bangalore, the stampede. I mean, it is so painful to see something like this in such a major city. It's just a celebration of a team winning, and you end up losing lives. It's painful, isn't it?
Terrible tragedy. In fact, when I saw the match and RCB won, and I heard that they are going to have a victory march, I said, God forbid. Because in Mumbai, when we had a victory march out here, even our roads, which are wide enough on Marine Drive, etc., were choked, and there was a fear that a stampede would occur. It didn't, luckily. But I said, Bangalore, cars can't move there. How are you going to have people moving there? And it's a state of affairs which they shouldn't have allowed at all. It's ridiculous.
This is all civic governance. Somebody has to, of course, now they remove the police chief, but it is a civic matter. City has to come together and take a call
on an
things
issue
like
where you're
that,
going to
right?
celebrate, you have a tragedy. How bad everybody who worked hard for that, winning the cup must feel,
Right.
and their fans, etc. It's terrible.
So it's very interesting. On one hand, IPL actually invokes this idea of urban belonging. You belong to Mumbai, no matter where you come from. You belong to Bangalore, no matter where you come from. And then you also have tragedies like this. So I think our first world and our third world sort of, is always clashing in India.
It has happened a bit too often in Telangana. It happened with that Pushpa actor.
Exactly, Allu Arjun.
Yeah, they were going to arrest him for all that. Now, I mean, you can't blame if you have these kind of figures, top-notch figures available for the public to see. They are going to throng. So there has to be a proper procedure for this kind of.
Right.
We just have not too many people.
Anticipate, a crowd.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we need to talk about. We'll have to do more conversations like this with you. So thank you so much for talking. And I think next time we can focus on some other aspect of infrastructure. There's enough to talk about. Thank you so much for
Kaveree, can I do my pitch?
Please.
My book?
The whole idea is to pitch the book as well. So please do encourage people to buy it and to read it. I definitely think it's very important for them to understand, where we are living. All of us, now 60% of us are living in cities and being with the infrastructure. And not to say that rural India should not have infrastructure.
I mean, when things didn't happen, which is there in my chapter 1, actually, when things got blocked between 2009 to 12 and 13, and then therefore the elections happened in 2014, we can see the amount of logjam that there was, which we call policy paralysis or whatever, that really took a huge number of years to actually unwind and bring it to the kind of speed that now we are running at. So it really pushes us back, this kind of reticence in taking any initiative.
Right. So thank you so much. I do hope more people read the book. I know that it's done very well, so congratulations. I'm sure people have asked you to do an update already.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, and hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you.